All right, I guess I'm switching to whiskey at halftime.
All right, we move on. And Swervin says, no more rules, Bebsie. That's the truth. You're a Pub Sports Radio now, baby. Let's go. Bengals, Vikings. And I'm looking forward to hear your breakdown on what's going on with the Vikings and what Zimmer is doing. His old school approach is not working with this very, very tricky vaccination situation. It's not working. He's got a problem on his hands, and the problem is getting bigger and bigger. And now I want the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, that's not the only reason, but I see a bit of a garbage fire being created by the Vikings right now. And I took a little peek at Bet365, and I can have the Bengals plus 3.5 at minus 120, which I don't think is expensive. And Dennis Garcia says, I have no idea what to do with Mini. Cash Action Bet says Bengals plus 3. And G-Saw says, love the Vikings, Bengals over. So let's move on to this market, because I think 3.5 is a pretty decent price here. And right now, it's 3 across the board, but it's up to minus 123 at Pinnacle. It opened at minus 105. So there's been a legitimate 18-cent move over to the Vikings. And I guess you're right. Maybe I need to talk this out because I don't know what to do with him either. We have Clint Kubiak coming in year 1 with the West Coast offense, and Patterson and Zimmer's son, Adam, are the dual defensive coordinators. They draft Darisaw, offensive tackle, round 1 out of Virginia Tech, number 23 overall. Kellen Mond, backup quarterback. Mackenzie Alexander, they bring in from the Bengals, returning to a system that he's comfortable with. Patrick Peterson, cornerback from the Cardinals. Xavier Woods, they bring in from the Cowboys. So Xavier Woods, Patrick Peterson, we don't know what Patrick Peterson has left, but Mackenzie Alexander, we knew what their problem was, and it was the secondary, so they're going to help. Kyle Rudolph, they lose him to the Giants. Mike Hughes, cornerback to the Chiefs. Anthony Harris to the Eagles. The Vikings could be a vastly improved group from a player personnel standpoint, but there's a ton of dysfunction, and there is a Zimmer being. I don't know if what he's doing is admirable. I don't know if what he's doing is foolish. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on how his feelings have progressed on the unvaccinated questions. Kirk Cousins threw for a career-high 35 TDs. Justin Jefferson set a rookie record. Adam Thielen caught 14 passes for 925 yards. Dalvin Cook was an absolute monster, 59-57 yards. They got off to that terrible start. Cousins looked awful. 11 touchdowns, 10 picks when they went 1-5. But their offensive line was a mess, and they draft Darisaw. Cousins gets rolling in the second half of the year, but unvaccinated is going to be a problem with fans in these stadiums just because of what you have to go through compared to the vaccinated players. I'm not saying right or wrong on getting the jab. I'm just saying that he's going to have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops that other players aren't going to have to jump through, and it's going to be a problem. Brian O'Neill, second-round pick in 2018, is an excellent tackle. Garrett Bradbury, first-rounder in 2019, is undersized but very strong. This defense fell apart, and, they lost in 2020. They lost their top 3 cornerbacks to free agency. They failed trying to replace them. So the only cornerback who looked good was Cameron Dantzler. So they go out and they bring Peterson, Breland, Alexander, Xavier Woods in. Their pass rush was nowhere to be found. Hunter, 29 sacks in 2018 and 19, out with the neck injury. Michael Pierce was expected to fill a big role, but he opts out. They need healthy seasons from Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks. Before we go into the Bengals, talk to me about these mysterious Minnesota Vikings.
Look, you hit the nail on the head with most of it. They are getting some important pieces back, especially Danielle Hunter on defense. I think personnel-wise, they're in a better situation defensively than they were last year. Offensively, sort of, mostly in the same position. As for the COVID thing and the vaccine thing, I don't want to get into it on a political level here because we know what'll happen. I'll start yelling at people in the chat again. I don't want to talk about it. I'm talking strictly from from a football perspective. We know there's a different set of rules for unvaccinated players that there are vaccinated players. I think you will see this hurt one or more teams this year. You're going to have this vaccination, these rules that are going to come into play, and they're going to hurt players. And I'm not sure who said it now. It's gone. But yeah, like the backup for Kirk Cousins right now is Kellen Mond. And Kellen Mond did some very good things in college, but is he ready to be an NFL starter? I don't think so. Is he going to be an NFL starter? I don't know. Not likely. This guy was projected like round 5 until the months leading up to the draft, and then he somehow snuck in. Was it the end of the one? Or early 2, I can't remember. But yeah, he's not going to be ready. So they're very vulnerable in that sense. Now, on the other side of the ball, you got a team that had offensive line problems as well that didn't really address them. In fact, they left Penei Sewell on the board and then took a receiver, which is a thing that they desperately did not need by comparison to a left tackle. So, look, both of these teams did a poor job addressing certain needs this offseason. Both of these teams have monster questions about them. And, yeah, I'm not believing in either one of them.
I get that, and my 6-month-old son is frantically searching for titty, and I hope big titty is in his mouth as soon as possible. Zach Taylor, head coach year 3, offensive coordinator Brian Callahan, and Lou Anarumo, the defensive coordinator. So year 3, we have, and we've seen this with a few different teams, an expectation that this should be an improving squad. They bring in Riley Reif, offensive tackle from the Vikings. And as you said, the Penei Sewell pick over Jamar Chase, they get Riley Reif, so helps them make that call. Trey Hendrickson, defensive end from the Saints. Jamar Chase, the wide receiver, reunites with Joe Burrow after opting out for 2020. Awuzie, the cornerback from the Cowboys. They lose A.J. Green, Carl Lawson, William Jackson, and Geno Atkins. Joe Burrow is coming back from a bad injury, but he looked so good. And if he wants Jamar Chase, doesn't need Penei Sewell to protect him, and that's what he's fighting for, I understand. He's got the keys to the car, and if he tells you to shut up, you shut up. If he tells you to smash some Kraken, you smash that Kraken. So Chase will step into this top 3 role right away with T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd in the slot. Jackson Carman from Clemson taken in the 2nd round of the draft to bolster the guard spot. So you have Dante Smith from East Carolina in the 4th round. You get center Trey Hill in the 6th round. So it's not like they stayed away from protecting their prized possession. Joe Mixon signs a 4-year, $48 million contract extension last August. They don't bring him back when he could have come back, because he would have been destroyed. Because, with Mixon healthy and a pass game that's dangerous, Mixon can put up some big numbers. So I like that. They wait till the 6th round before drafting Chris Evans out of Michigan. They're hoping to see a bounce back defensively, hoping to see a bounce back spot from Sam Hubbard, 2 sacks in 2020. And the question for me is this secondary. The secondary, as it stands right now, will have 3 cornerbacks who've never played it down for the Bengals. Jesse Bates III will hold it together. And Jermaine Pratt is part of a pretty good-looking young Bengals linebacking core. And Dennis Garcia is on the 2 to win place at Mohawk Standard Bread. Bebsie, what's the move here? Do you agree with me wanting to back the Bengals plus 3.5, or is this a stay-off spot?
It's another stay-off spot for me, and I don't know if I agree with I understand your look as you've explained it to me, Jimmy. I don't agree with it. I agree with Caveman Betts here saying Riley Reif is a terrible left tackle. I don't know if he's terrible. I just don't think he's very good. And until Burrow shows me that he can play pre-injury Burrow, where they still do not have a line, I understand they addressed it in other rounds, but they left a generational left tackle on the board. They took the sexier pick. And look, I think Jamar Chase is going to be fine. There's a lot of hoopla being made about his drops in camp. I do think he's an insanely talented receiver. He's going to be fine, but they got to buy Burrow some time, and they still don't have a very good defensive or offensive line. And look, I don't care about your weapons. If you're not winning the game in the trenches, you're not winning the game. So until I see Burrow play like he did pre-injury, I have to assume that injury is a problem.
All right. Well, I added a bunch of question marks there, and that's the reason for this show. Does everything correlate with your action, and then should you bet it? Okay. There is Vikings, Bengals. We move on.